This is going to be so cool.
Shonen, in my opinion, is the biggest anime genre known for always staying on top just because of the fact that people like watching two dudes fight each other to the death, or women, hashtag gender equality. But this theme has literally been trending on Twitter ever since the dawn of time. Just look at the Romans, they've been doing this stuff for years, gang. Now, not to mention, Shonen actually has some of the best shows like One Puzzle, Bleach, AOT, Demon Thing, and even MHA. Okay, maybe not MHA. Now overall, shonen is a pretty good genre, but there's one main thing that people sometimes point out, and that's that shonen isn't a real genre. This is because shonen basically just translates to boy, and boy isn't a genre, it's a demographic. Now to my 0.2 GPA friends, what this is basically saying is that shonen means boy, and boy equals people, not boy equals genre. But in my opinion, from how popular shonen is used to term for an action anime or fighting series or even manga, I say we just stick with it. But if fighting is your thing, we got
戻るぞ高尾ディフェンスだこれで外したら俺もどやされんだけどバカを言うな高尾俺は運命に従っているそして準備は尽くしただから俺のシュートまだ
Now, sports anime to some illiterate people may seem boring, but that's just because you haven't watched any of the good ones. And I'm not talking about Blue Lock. Now, Blue Lock isn't bad, it's fine, but in my opinion, the older ones are way better, like Slam Dunk, the basketball Kurokuro plays, and even Hajime no Ippo. Now, not to mention, sport animes are even really good for people, as what I've noticed is that for some people, when they watch these types of anime, they start playing outside or doing a sport just because they watch a sport anime. And this is honestly the same thing without people training in the gym to get an anime physique, but instead they train to play like characters from an anime, which is not bad at all. And honestly, some major celebrities and athletes are even inspired by anime and have done the hand signals, gestures, and dances as a sign of respect to the anime or the show that they watch, as it's a funny or comedic way of expressing their appreciation. See what I did there? Comedic, because the next one is
じゃあ見ててみほらお手
Comedy anime is honestly a big hit or miss, and it's not because they're bad, it's just because they're bad. Like, in all honesty, I'd love to sit here and talk like a heartwarming, charming individual on how comedy anime makes me giggle my socks off, but they just don't. During my years of studying at Couch Potato University during quarantine, when I would watch anime all day, my studies have showed me that only very few comedy animes are actually funny, as some of them just use overused jokes that get annoying really quickly, or the anime actually hits, like in Isekai, Gintama, or even Nichijou. Now, in my opinion, these are really the funniest and best ones because I really enjoy them, but also because, like stated before, the rest suck. But in all, 1/3 of them are good, so it's a pretty good genre, but it's also pretty mid too. Also, side note, some people say that the joke gets lost in translation from Japanese to English, and that's why it's not as funny. And simply stated, my response to that is,
you were exceptional. That was quite the show. Well done.
Fantasy is a genre that's recently been catching up steam thanks to some great animes that came out recently, like Frieren, Mashi Magic and Muscles, Not Gonna Lie, the Song Carried, or even The Apothecary Diaries. Now, this is where me, as a viewer, found this genre weird, as it could be mixed with anything and sometimes people confused it. For example, when Mushoku Tensei first started gaining popularity, some people and even my friends thought it was a fantasy instead of an isekai. Now, it is an isekai, but it's just because it takes so much up from fantasy and a whole bunch of different genres and puts it into one. Now, overall, this genre is great, but I'm gonna be straight up honest. I never liked any fantasy movies, books, or anime, so this whole genre is like a completely different world to me, as most of them, I just got bored on episode 1 because there wasn't two dudes fighting.
狙撃スキルは運が強いほどに命中率が増す俺にうってつけのスキル
ちょっと今私の頭 かす。
Now, isekais are basically just a reincarnation story of a guy, or that same guy getting flung into another world via Rick and Morty portal. Now, saying that out loud does sound weird, and you know what? I thought that too when I first started watching isekais, but like stated before, after my studies at Couch Potato University with honor roll, you're absolutely right. Now, some of these isekais are quite normal, as it's just what the normal average human would do in their position, like Sword Art Online, but some just go straight off the hook with new ideas I never thought would be possible. And I must say, some of these are the best animes I've watched, hands down. And you might be asking, what are these isekais? Well, my friend, they are If My Wife Became an Elementary Student, So I'm a Spider, So What, and Reborn as a Vending Machine. Now, you may think I'm joking with how stupid these names are. Yes, but these are real. They're very stupid, they're kinda mid, but you gotta admit, the creativity does go crazy though. Now, in my humble opinion, I found most of these isekais hard to watch, as the main character, like Subaru for example, is always complaining and crying over the fact that he's reborn into a new life, because the way I was raised simply just doesn't fit the type of character he is, which is why I prefer to watch shows where instead of complaining, the character just sucks it up and gets back on his feet.
先生、私の愛を受け入れて。
それはできないよ。
どうして？年の差がありすぎるから？
ああ、
そんな、愛さえあれば年の差なんて。
無理だよ。だって幼稚園児なんだもん。
Now, romance anime from our first world viewers is basically our romance shows, but basically 12 episodes longer, with more drama and with more romance. And they also usually kiss on the last episode, compared to how they get freaky in the first 5 seconds into the show in America. Now, in my opinion, this isn't bad, and I very much like this idea of romance better than going on Tinder to find the love of your life for only one night. But some people hate romance, and some people like it. But some popular animes that I know that are in the romance genre that in my opinion are the best because of the story or because it's funny are Kaguya-sama Love is War, I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, Blue Box, or even Your Lie in April, which is technically a music instead of a romance, but it's good, so it counts. I don't care what you say in the comments.
デブちゃん、はーい。何が好き？そこね、と。
Now, the music anime, unlike our societal norm from High School Musical, does not include them dancing into a musical number whatsoever. And from my experiences, they usually are just about, I don't know, music I think. But overall, some are enjoyable, some the fan base ruins, and some just suck. So drink it with a cup of salt or water or whatever this thing is, and just please, if you have any other time for something, only watch K-On! And then just don't watch the rest. Now, this genre is honestly what I'm talking about. Now, Big Robot or Mecha, My Name is Way Cooler, is basically a genre with big robots or mechs fighting or doing stuff. I don't know, I only watch Evangelion, but they are pretty good, especially if you're into Gundam, because the Gundam figurines and collectibles look sick. Now, unlike shonen, this style wasn't popular since the Roman ages and only really started trending on Twitter after they realized robots could fight in space and do explosions. So overall, on a manly scale, this genre is awesome.
ほら。
Yep.
Now, unlike hentai, these animes don't have any scenes above TVMA, so it's technically safe for kids, but they are pretty weird as this genre focuses heavily on fan service, and you guessed it, fan service. Now, overall, people hate on them, but in my opinion, some of them are the funniest shows I've ever watched. Only really High School DxD though, and Prison School, because they're really the only ones I've watched, but overall, they're decent. And if you have the time and patience to watch something like this, please just watch something else. Slice of life is another genre similar to sports on how people think it's boring and boring and boring, but if you just sat down from a stressful day of doing nothing and watched an episode of any slice of life, you would understand why they're so good. They're basically an animated version of a sitcom, feel good, or coming of age comfort TV, and overall they are pretty good, with some being very popular, but they do seem to lose traction very quickly once people get their hands on something slightly better. Horror is an anime genre not really watched too much because it simply just isn't scary unless you watch the classics. Now most modern horror animes are like people who go to the gym one time and then start walking like if they're David Lake. Now, not gonna lie, this is massively because these animes want to be scary so bad to the point where they try too hard. And it's not scary and it's not boring, it's just in a mix between that makes them not scary and not boring, if you know what I mean. Now, I know that it feels like I'm not making sense, but if you don't believe me, watch some of the most popular horror animes and trust me, you won't even flinch. And I'm not talking about Death Note or something, I'm talking about the real classics like Perfect Blue, which is actually really good. You should watch it, but just know it really isn't that scary and none of them can scare me. You already know what I'm on. Now, hentai, to my let's just say missing out viewers, is basically corn on the cob, buddy. But hey, let's be honest, everyone who watches it only watches it for the story. Right, guys? Now, shoju, not to be confused with the drink. Get it? Shou is the equivalent of shonen, but just girls, and it's all based around getting the attention and viewership from young girls. So some of the most popular ones from this character are Cardcaptor Sakura, Sailor Moon, and some others that I don't watch because I'm a 6'2" nonchalant dreadhead. ladies, hit me up. Now, shoujo anime really aren't my thing, but most people like them, so if you got the free time, feel free to watch any of them, but just know none of them beat Solo Leveling, and you're lying to yourself if you think. Sci-fi is one of the coolest and greatest genres, which really put anime on the world map, and it has some of the best ones like Akira, Cowboy Bebop, Evangelion, and even Cyberpunk Edge Runner. Edge. Moving on, sci-fi focuses a lot on advanced technology in the future, and technology with the future. Now, sci-fi, like I said, used to be one of the most popular genres, but it's recently slowed down since Edge Runner stopped trending on Twitter. But once season 2 comes out, it's definitely gonna start showing up on everyone's For You page again. Now, overall, sci-fi is very cool and old school, but it's still good and is great. Now, if you disagree with any of my opinions on this, comment them down below. Thanks for Akendo for this idea, and yeah, peace.